Good morning, everyone. Today I am in Union County, Pennsylvania, along the North Branch of the Susquehanna River. I believe we are actually in Danville. And I'm going to hike along the North Branch Canal Trail. And I believe the canal trail starts up this way. But I thought I would just pop down here and take a look at the river. So peaceful. Beautiful, right? And Tony is pointing out some fossils. Oh, wow. Wow, absolutely. Hopefully that's coming out on camera. Look at that. And that. Oh my God. Look at this. I mean, these all look like, right? Kind of like the way this rock split. So I could spend the whole day down here, but I want to check out the canal trail. And I'm kind of hoping maybe there's some remnants of the old canal. If it's called the North Branch Canal Trail, you would think there might be some old remains of the canal, right, Tone?
According to the brochure.
According to a brochure that Tony read, there might be some remains. So we're gonna go exploring and see what we see. And this is the trail, but I'm thinking this down here is the canal. So as I'm walking along, you can see that goes straight down. So that is the canal. So what I'm going to be looking for are maybe some remnants from the canal walls, maybe some stonework. I have to tell you, this feels really good because if you watch my channel, most of my recent videos have been sort of abandoned places, railroad tracks, historical sites, but this feels good to just kind of be back in nature, doing a little bit of a hike.
Yeah, I think this is the canal.
Absolutely, that is the canal, Tony.
Look how deep, that's really deep.
I know, it's very deep. So the depth of the canal is still there.
Yeah.
I do see the stonework over there.
Yeah.
From the old canal. And this goes down, how many feet would you say that is? Because I always overestimate. But I'm gonna say like, I'm gonna be careful. That is like a 20-foot drop down. So I do see some remnants of the stonework over here. But we're gonna continue hiking along the trail and kind of see what we see. So we're thinking this probably was the towpath. You think?
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible the towpath was over there before they built the railroad tracks.
Yeah, well, maybe.
But anyway, we're going to say this quite possibly was the towpath. And as I just mentioned, there are railroad tracks right over there. So this should be a pretty interesting hike. And once again, whenever you find remnants of an old canal, there's always railroad tracks like right next to it. So far, that's been my experience. I guess that makes sense because they probably used the canal and the railroad tracks maybe at one time, at the same time. I don't know that for sure, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like the railroad replaced the canal, but they were probably both in operation for a period of time. Now this is kind of interesting. This looks a little less canal-y over here now. Canal-y, is that a word? Nice little view here. And from what Tony was just pointing out to me, it almost appears as if this is sort of like a little island in the middle.
Yeah.
It would be really cool to get over there.
You could swim.
Yeah. Now the only negative to this trail, it's not a loop, Tony. So if we walk 3 miles, we got to walk back on the same trail 3 miles. I really like loops. I could walk forever. I could have no problem walking 10 miles, but I hate when I have to walk back along the same route. So I keep kind of looking down into the canal area for stonework, and I'm not really finding any. It's kind of interesting. It's like, what happened to all the stones? I have been seeing a lot of railroad ties that have been thrown down there. I definitely want to get down there eventually. I could probably make my way down here, but there's really not much to see. I thought this was kind of cool. Look at what's growing on this tree. Not sure what you call that, but interesting. As we continue along the North Branch Trail. Okay, so we are now in the canal. And again, I keep looking to see if I can find some remains of the old stonework, and I'm really not seeing it, which seems unusual to me. I know from reading a little bit about when canals met their demise, I know that a lot of times people would use the stones for other, I guess, construction jobs, but I would think we'd find something.
Well, I don't think you find them till you find a lock.
Till we find what?
A lock. They didn't line these whole things with.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So Tony's telling me that you might not even find stonework until you find a lock. I didn't realize that, so I'm learning something on every new adventure. So I guess the real old canals were not all lined with stone, maybe only at the points where they had locks. I don't know. I'll have to do some research, and again, like I always say in my videos, if you have some information you want to share, please put it in the comments. Always enjoy learning from reading the comments. Look at this beautiful green moss. The North Branch Canal ran through Danville as part of a major Pennsylvania transportation network. It connected New York to the state's main line system and facilitating the transport of anthracite coal, iron, and other goods from the 1830s until its decline in the late 19th century due to railroad competition. There's a similar theme along all these canals we explore. Also, when we're on a trail like this, or we're checking out an old railroad or canal system, anthracite coal was pretty much the number one, what am I trying to say? The number one good that was being shipped?
Right.
Shipped.
So I guess
I guess I shouldn't say shipped if we're talking about railroads or canals, but you understand what I'm saying. What is the word I'm looking for?
transported.
Transported. This is why I bring Tony, so he can kind of help me out when I have a brain freeze. And from what Tony is telling me, Danville was a huge iron producing
many mills
city at one time. There's a whole lot of mills. There is a lanternfly. Boop. Look at that. I'm hitting him with the camera and he's not even moving. So they are an invasive species. You know, I don't see as many of them. I remember a few years back, I think it was like 2020, they were all over the place. And I lived in Philadelphia at the time. I can remember I was running one day down around Spring Garden Street and they were all over the sidewalk. And this is when the pandemic was going on. So everything seemed so post-apocalyptic. I really wish I had my YouTube channel back then, because I saw some really interesting things going on in the city. Anyway, I am rambling on as Tony walks ahead, so I'm gonna try to catch up to him. We just passed a couple that were walking their dog, and I asked if they were local. And I asked the gentleman, you know, because I don't see any remnants of the canal down here, and I said, is there any remains of a lock? So he gave me directions. So it's actually not in Danville, it's in Catawissa, and it's not marked, so it's not in a like a historical park or anything, but it seemed pretty simple to get there. So we're gonna hike a little bit further, see if we see anything interesting, and then what we're probably gonna do is hop in the car. We're cheating. I don't think you could just keep going along this trail to get there. I doubt it. Possibly. Actually, you probably can, because it's a 6-mile trail, but we don't, 6.2 miles, I think, right? But we don't have time to do that today, because if you do that, it's actually 12.4 miles. I think we're gonna hike a little further, get a nice little workout, and then we're gonna try to find the remains of the North Branch Canal lock, or at least one of its locks. So when the North Branch Canal was completed, it ran 169 miles along the Susquehanna. It connected the town of Northumberland, Pennsylvania with the New York state line. So we're now headed back to the car, and as I mentioned before, we're going to try to find some remnants of one of the locks. All right, so as I mentioned, we got in the car looking for remnants of the old lock, and we followed the directions, but I don't see a lock yet. But we came upon a covered bridge and an old railroad bridge and a modern railroad bridge, which I believe goes over the canal. So we're just gonna kind of check this area out. Always an adventure. It's kind of cool when you find things when you're not looking for them. You don't think that's the canal down there?
I think it's a creek, and this says private property.
Okay, we believe that's the creek, but we can definitely at least cross over this covered bridge. And you think we're probably in Catawissa, right?
Yeah, it's close. You're outside of it.
So we're gonna head over most likely to the covered bridge, but there's also, it looks like an abandoned train bridge over here, which I'm gonna check out. So Tone, why don't we check out the covered bridge first? All right, so this is the Rupert Bridge, and it says number 56. So I believe the covered bridges in Pennsylvania are all numbered. You might remember when I was at the Van Zant Bridge, I can't remember what number it was. I think it was like 73 maybe, or 78. I can't remember. But I had no idea why there was a number there. Thanks to some of your comments, I believe all these bridges were numbered. So we do have to be careful because this is an active roadway. Oh, wow, look at this. So here we have an active bridge here. And on the other side, that is, I believe, an abandoned railroad bridge. So at some point, I'm gonna try to make my way over to that. As I mentioned, this is an active bridge and there's somebody passing right now. So this bridge was built in 1847. It says for $1,636. You certainly couldn't build a bridge for $1,600 these days. It's pretty cool though. And it's actually quite active as another car just passed by. Beautiful construction. I'm certainly not an expert on covered bridges, so I have no idea what type of construction this is. So when we started this video, we were in Union County, but I believe we are now in Columbia County. And this is the oldest existing covered bridge in the county. Wow, this is a really beautiful bridge. This is beautiful. I could have made a video about the bridge alone, but it's kind of cool when you go on these little adventures and you see a lot and cover a lot. At least I think so. So I want to get a really beautiful view of the Rupert Bridge. And this is Fishing Creek. So let's head down and check out Fisher's Creek. This is really pretty. Loving this creek. So look up on the covered bridge from below. We sort of lost the canal, didn't we? Promise you. Well, I say I promise, but we're going to try to find our way back to the canal as well. But this is quite beautiful. Loving it down here. Look at this rock. Just look how it's all, not sure what I'm trying to say, but it's, nature's very artistic in a way, right? I love just the way this is all kind of split up, but all still kind of together. Very, very cool. Let's see if we can balance ourselves along this log. Look at that old bridge. So I want to head over there and see if the railroad ties are still there. And here there's an old piece of heavy, very heavy iron. And an old iron, appears to be a bolt, right? Most likely from this old bridge. So Tony was just saying this line is active, which that is where we crossed over on the street. And this is an inactive train line.
You wouldn't want to walk across that.
I would not want to walk across that now. There are no old railroad ties, so they removed the rails and the ties. So could it be crossed? It certainly could. You could walk across one of those beams, but I'm not going to do it. And I don't necessarily recommend that you do either. This is a cool creek because you can kind of just step from rock to rock. And you can get pretty far out into the creek. This is interesting too. See how it's like there's a ledge here. I assume that's natural, but it almost goes down in like a straight line. And then the water gets a little deeper. Kind of cool. And Tony's over there checking out the old stonework. You can see it right there. That is very cool. So I've been referring to this creek as Fisher Creek. It is actually Fish Creek. This rail line crossing Fisher Creek near Catawissa was part of the historic Catawissa Railroad, which was a significant but challenging engineering feat connected to Schuylkill County coal fields to the main line at Williamsport. It's Fish Creek, right, Tony?
Fishing Creek.
All right, Tony says it's Fishing Creek.
That's what it says up on the sign.
So this route, including the trestles and tunnels, was costly to build, and it suffered multiple bankruptcies before becoming part of the larger Philadelphia and Reading Railroad network. Although the line was later abandoned by the Reading Railroad, the route through Catawissa remains a notable part of the region's industrial past. And that is the active line. All these little areas of Pennsylvania that I would never have in the past thought about visiting are really kind of cool. They're sort of hidden treasures. So I'm having trouble finding when exactly this was built. So if anyone out there knows, please leave it in the comments. My best guess is somewhere around 1860, somewhere between like 1860 and maybe 65. Complete guess, people. So if you do know, please leave it in the comments. Comments are always appreciated. Right, Tony?
What?
I said the comments are always appreciated.
Yeah.
Now call me crazy, but I just picked this up. Now this looks like a rock, but I'm thinking this is an old piece of iron too, Tony. Oh my God, it might be a really old rail spike.
I don't know. Some people call that the Coon's Bridge.
Oh my God, look at that. Look how old that rail spike is. It actually broke.
Yeah, it's rusty.
Yeah, but it broke. It's so... What? What am I trying to say? And why do I find that so interesting? I just love finding remnants from the past. So anyway, Tone, do you want to maybe get out of this area and see if we can still find the canal? Yeah. We're going to see if we can find the lock. We're kind of running out of time because we have some other things we have to do today, but hopefully we will find it. I believe we found remnants of the old canal, which I got to tell you, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, my friends. Oh my God. Okay, so hopefully you can see that through the trees. And there's a couple vicious dogs headed over here. Oh my God, look at that. Wow, look how deep it is, Tony.
Yeah.
So I need to make my way down there somehow. But that is probably what? Here I go estimating again, but literally that's at least 25 feet high, right?
Yeah,
25 feet high. And this is really in good condition. I didn't realize this was still in existence here. So I have my pepper spray in hand. You might have heard some dogs. They were like, I think they were pit bulls. They didn't seem too friendly. All right, I'm gonna make my way down here. See if we can get a closer look. All right, so I'm down here now. This is very, very cool. Oh, wow, look. I'm like talking to myself. Tony's not down here, but check this out. I found, this is really muddy, so I gotta be careful where I stand, but check this out. There's some old hardware, like hinges or something. And there's one right there too, right? So this probably was a lock. I mean, I'm assuming it was. Not sure if you can see it, but there's an old bolt there. And this stone is all still in really good shape. It changes a little as we walk down this way. You can see it's like really thin I say, but here we go, like a hand's depth stone. And then you get over here and we've got some larger cut stone. There's again another remnant from the past, something that controlled maybe one of the gates. And then we have that down there as well. So I believe I am walking through a lock. And there's Tony. I don't know if you can see him on top. He did not come down, but that'll give you a little bit of perspective of what I'm walking through. What, Tony?
This is built up here, right?
What do you mean build up?
Like stonework.
Yes.
Back there is all caved in or gone.
Somebody's Tonka truck. Guys, this is really nasty down here. It's all muddy, tons of bugs, but I believe if I just keep moving this way, it'll be a steady climb back out of here.
Yeah,
but these walls are, I'd say about 20, at least 20, 25 feet high. These walls are about 20, 25 feet high. And
yeah, the wall,
they're pretty much all intact. This almost feels like quicksand, so
yeah, you're gonna.
If you're thinking about coming out here, wear hiking boots. I did not. I wore sneakers. What I won't do for YouTube views. So listen, if you like this video, I'm gonna say it before I end, please give it a like. It actually helps the algorithm and it helps the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing that as well as I try to make my way through the canal. All right, you can see it comes up here, so but I gotta tell you, I didn't expect to see all this. I did a little bit of research online before I drove out here, and I had no idea all this was still intact. So, you know, part of the adventure is just setting your sights on something, head out there, and sometimes you find a lot more than you expect. And then, to be honest with you, on the flip side, sometimes the video turns out to be a dud. And you either don't post it, or you just cut it down to a very short video. So I do like to think that we find a lot of interesting things on these little explorations. All right, so inside the North Branch Canal, I think I'm gonna end my video here. Thank you so much for joining me. Please, please, please give it a like if you enjoyed this. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much, and you have an awesome day. Take care, everybody.